Well, Michelle Donelan, the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, joins us now live, our first interview today. I want to talk to you about GB News, but I do just want to start on Rosebank, because today Rishi Sunak has given the green light to Rosebank, Britain's largest untapped oil field. I thought you're still committed to net zero.
We absolutely are committed to net zero. The whole point of what we said last week and still today is that we've got to do that in a responsible way. We've got to do it in an achievable way, a way that actually delivers on those targets. And the Climate Change Committee themselves have said that during that transition, you've got to use oil and gas. We can't just turn it off overnight. So it's a good announcement for the UK today. It's going to enhance our energy security. It's going to enhance our number of jobs. The predictions show it will mean 24 billion to the UK economy, but we are still committed to net zero. I want to be really clear on that point.
I also want to be clear, you're talking there about not turning off oil and gas overnight, but we're going to be selling this oil and gas, aren't we, to other countries and then re-importing it. So it doesn't make that much difference to our actual oil and gas supply, does it?
It does make a difference to our oil and gas supply. I think that by 2030 it's about 8%. So it does make a difference because, as you say, we are a net importer at the moment, which obviously isn't good for the carbon footprint there. But it's more than that as well. It's obviously adding to our energy security in general. It's adding to the number of jobs here. It's making sure that we are hitting our target in terms of net zero, but in a responsible way, in a proportionate way, and taking the British public with us, which has been the theme of the announcements that we've been doing for the last 2 weeks now.
I just remember Rishi Sunak kind of standing in front of that podium this week and talking about long-term decisions for a brighter future. And it does feel like, whether it's net zero or whether it's high speed 2, that whenever these long-term decisions run into short-term problems, and I'm not saying they're not difficult problems or tricky problems, like who should pay for it, people having to make sacrifices, then they just get scaled back.
I think the opposite is true. I think what Rishi Sunak has done is he's took really difficult challenges and he said, no, look, the debate is wrong on issues like this. We don't have to make a choice between people becoming poor over the journey to net zero. We can do it in a responsible way. We can take the British public with us. We are decarbonising faster than anybody else in the G7. And I think we should remember that. This isn't going to put us at the back of the line. We're still going to be world leaders when it comes to net zero.
Isn't it better to level with people, though? Isn't it better to level with people? You're saying there, you don't have to make any difficult choices. Well, we kind of do, but why don't just be upfront with people? Look, yes, net zero is good, but right now we want to be prioritising jobs. Just say it.
I don't. The whole point is that it's not an either or, but it shouldn't be an impossible task. There's no point having targets for target's sake. We have to actually achieve those targets. And to do that, you've got to do it in an affordable way, in a way that people can do. So if electric cars at the moment aren't affordable for everybody, we've got to push those targets back slightly. The same with heat pumps. But we also need to invest in the technology, which is at the heart of my work. And part of the announcement that we did last week was £150 million into green fellowships. So getting experts, academics to really look at some of these problems on these tangible issues so that we can actually develop the technology quicker to answer some of these issues.
Let's talk about GB News, shall we? Because Lawrence Fox and Dan Wootton have been suspended after broadcasting some pretty misogynistic comments. I'm sure you've heard what they said. Who would want to shag that? They said about a female journalist. Show me a single self-respecting man that would like to climb into bed with that woman ever, ever. How should Ofcom, the watchdog, respond?
I think Ofcom really do need to look at this. I was quite shocked and taken aback by the level of the comments made and the response of Dan on that show. It was completely unacceptable. It was unacceptable for everybody that was watching, I'm sure. And I'm glad that GB News took decisive action and suspended both of them quickly today. But there needs to be the next stage now, and Ofcom really need to be looking at this.
Will you be appearing on GB News in the meantime?
So I'm not going to boycott GB News. As I said, I'm glad that they took decisive action. I think there's some big questions that we need to understand the answers to, as to was this pre-agreed exactly as it has been discussed today? How did this come about? Why was this ever viewed as acceptable in modern Britain? Those are big things that GB News is going to have to reflect upon and make sure that they learn some big lessons here.
Do you think it reflects on perhaps cultural issues at the channel? Like you said, if there were other people signing it off, if people are almost encouraged to make kind of shocking or grabby comments, and then if they go a bit too far, everyone just backs off?
No, absolutely not. No, I don't think that this is a symptom of a broader problem at all. I think this is two individuals that have completely spoken in an unacceptable and disgraceful way. Yes, we need to look at exactly how did this happen, but this is an isolated incident. GB News have acted swiftly and quickly, and I praise them and commend them for doing that. But I think the broader point is that these people should never have done this in the first place. And those two individuals really need to reflect themselves on why did they think this was acceptable conduct when so many women and men would have been watching them and thinking, what the heck is happening here?
OK, now, one other story I want to ask you about tonight, Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, she's been giving a speech on migration. She spoke to Anushka Asana tonight, and she said that asylum seekers sometimes, in her words, purport to be gay. Do you think she's right on that?
I think that it's no secret that there's been a number of loopholes when it comes to immigration, and this government has been trying to systematically close those loopholes.
So is this a loophole then?
But let me finish. Let me finish.
On sexuality.
So we've seen and heard many stories over the years of things like individuals claiming to be a lot younger than they are, claiming to be minors, etc., to desperately try and get here when they're actually economic migrants. So I think there will be people out there that are claiming that they are gay when they are not gay. But what we have to make sure is that our system is robust, that we're helping those that genuinely need help, that are being persecuted, because we have a strong history in this country of being a welcoming nation, of being a nation that helps those that need help. And we shouldn't turn our back on people that are in genuine need. But let's not forget that every place that is taken by an economic migrant that is pretending to be in need is taking up a place from somebody who genuinely needs it. And we do need to get a grip on immigration. We do need to control our borders, because we do have capacity issues, and we do have issues of we cannot take everybody. That is a logical statement that I think most people would agree to.
I just want to try and sort of strip away some of the kind of rhetoric and language for a minute and talk about what the government's actually doing, because there's been this big speech. Suella Braverman has been saying that, look, some people are claiming to be gay when they're not. Your sexuality and your gender or your sex shouldn't just come into it and be an automatically right to be granted asylum. So what is the government's policy then? Are you walking away from the refugee convention? What's happening?
So what Suella was saying yesterday is that this is a global international problem. We're not the only country that is facing issues when it comes to immigration. In fact, the UN themselves said that figures last year that there was about 108 million people who were displaced globally. We know that Europe is facing increased pressure as well. So we need a modern solution that works internationally as well. We need to look at those conventions. The UN Convention on Refugees was written in 1951. That's many decades ago. Its application has changed quite dramatically since it was originally written, and what the original purpose of some of it said has been overinterpreted, I would argue, since then. So it is right that we take stock and we ask these questions. Should we be amending this so that we can be particularly helping those that really need it over those that are trying to get round the system? I think that's the right approach, really, for any government to be looking at, right, what can we do domestically and what can we do internationally to tackle this issue that we should be a priority?
What is the approach, though? What is it? Are you going to walk away from it? Are you going to unilaterally come up with our own refugee convention? What is it?
So we've said that we need to have a debate about this. We need to talk to international counterparts and see if there is scope for making changes. The Prime Minister himself has been very clear that that we will do whatever it takes to honour our commitment to stop the boats and to tackle illegal immigration. There is no silver bullet. That's why we've introduced a new bill. It's why we've done a deal with France. It's why we've done a deal with Albania. It's why we've increased the number of our caseworkers to tackle the backlog. We've been trying to ensure that no stone is left unturned. And the next stage was, OK, the conventions that we're signed up to, Are they fit for purpose? Are they allowing people in via loopholes? Are they being over-interpreted? Let's have that conversation internationally with other countries and see what they think.
Conversation then at this stage, not policy. Is it the starting gun on Suella Braverman's leadership contest? Or her second bid, I should say?
We have a prime minister in this country who has identified the key priorities, the priorities that come up in the doorstep when I go and knock on doors in my own constituency, and we're determined to deliver on those and to make good for the British public. There is no vacancy for any leadership campaign to even be trying to achieve.